Welcome to the Drilling Millions podcast, presented by Sage Dental Partners.
Dr. Auerbach, Jason's Bloody Tooth guy on Instagram, is a marketing genius in a lot of ways. I know you'd started off the page early on. So why don't you just start off by talking about how you got started on Insta?
A story I've told a couple of times is I started in 2015. I actually happened to be on my daughter's birthday. I was sitting in my office and I was watching Dr. Pimple Popper, and I thought to myself that if people would be interested in watching popping pimples, maybe bloody teeth. And so I figured that I would really just start posting pictures of bloody teeth, and I did. And I came up with the name Bloody Tooth Guy because a very, very close friend of mine's daughter had a stuffed animal that had a broken tail, and the name of the stuffed animal was Broken Tail Guy. And I thought it just actually sounded right. And so I took Bloody Tooth Guy from that, and I credit Kayla for that every time I speak about it. And so initially, Instagram was still photos only. It was a place where there wasn't a lot of healthcare content at all. Dental, really almost none. Maybe some lifestyle, dental lifestyle stuff like APA and things like that. There were a couple of surgeons who were doing things similar to what I was doing. As Instagram evolved into video and more artistic expression, I was very, very fortunate to be providing content that they were looking to push. Things have changed drastically, just in terms of sensitive content warnings and things like that, and the way that Instagram pushes video over still images and reels to try to compete with TikTok, as opposed to kind of more of their standard format stuff. But I was there, I was fortunate, and I think I've built something pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty special, and I mean, in the dental space, it's kind of in a class of its own.
I appreciate that,
which is pretty cool. So do you still manage it? We're at 183,000 followers now, which is huge. But do you still manage it yourself, or do you have a
100%.
firm doing it for you?
No,
you manage it yourself.
Every single post, every single photo, every single video obviously is taken by a member of my team. If I'm working, but most of the photos are taken by me. I'm not like a technical photographer by any means. I think probably my strength comes with the composition of the photo. If you look at my early stuff, it was that. But the fact is that all of the visual content and all of the what I'm writing comes just from me, and typically it's like at the moment, and that's how I've done it.
I feel like the conventional philosophy is, people will grow their Instagram page and then they'll say, this is too big, I don't want to handle it anymore. Why did you go down the route of managing yourself rather than outsourcing?
I feel like my voice is very specific to me, and I don't mean the way my voice sounds, although maybe. I do think that what I have to say is so clearly from me or not from me that if I tried to have somebody write or ghostwrite for me, it really would be inauthentic. And I think I mean, that for me is what I preach in my business and what I preach kind of in life. And you have to really kind of be who you are. People ask me all the time, how do they build an Instagram page, or how do they do well on social media or business or life, whatever? And I really just say you have to be you. And if you're a likable human and you are being honest and truthful to yourself, it's sustainable and it's going to yield positivity for you. I mean, if it's real. If it's not, then people see through that. As funny as social media is, and people think it's like not real, the audience is pretty sophisticated. They can see when you're trying to BS them. So that's why I do it myself. I can definitely, I will say this, I think that I probably could have grown much more quickly. I also think that I probably from this point could grow significantly and monetize it more and all of that. If I had somebody managing it and pushing TikTok style videos and telling me, consulting with me on how to do what I would have to do. But I don't really have the bandwidth for it. It's really a tertiary thing for me. I have a practice. I guess we'll get into that. I have my family, my friends, my life. It's funny. Bloody Tooth Guy is really something that I love, but it's not something that I spend as much time on as one would think.
Yeah, I think you're so right on that. authenticity piece. I think in a previous podcast you recorded, you said, you can go hire a marketing firm, but what is a Thanksgiving post really going to do for your practice? Right. I think that hit the nail right on the head, which is, if you're not posting stuff that people care about, it's not going to lead to anything.
That's right. That's true.
It's just gonna be at the top of the feed. But I mean, what does that really mean?
I mean, people want to see who you are. People want to understand kind of what makes you tick. And if you're trying to just push digital images and things like that, that doesn't work. Also, the same thing. No one wants to see a middle-aged guy from New Jersey dancing on TikTok. It's not what you're looking for, and that's not what I'm providing for you. People look to me, I think, which has evolved into this over time, for kind of guidance, almost education to some degree, to a great degree. And I think that I'm happy to provide it. I love doing that. I never saw myself as a teacher. I felt like I'm a guy who does things. I'm very, very hands-on. And if you learn from that and you learn that way, that's great. But I've been asked, of course, many times to lecture and talk and all that. I'm not one to prepare a lecture and speak. That's why I said to you, you could send me topics, all day long. I'm not even going to look at them. You're going to ask me a question. I'm going to be real and answer it. And that's how I do my thing. Yeah,
that's the right way to do it. I like it. So you mentioned APA and some of the others. I think there's a whole bunch of dentists that really hammer down on the lifestyle aspect of it. Why have you chosen to go down the direction of the clinical side?
I really do see my Bloody Tooth Guy account as having evolved into what it is now. So it started out really as photographs of just bloody teeth, and then I became a little bit more interesting with them. I'd pose them in different ways and ask people to come up with captions or whatever it would be, and then video, like I said, became a thing, and it just seemed to be what my audience was interested in. Also, my lifestyle, while great, is not. I'm not like jet setting here, jet setting there. I live right outside New York City. So the lifestyle part of what you get from my account, where I go to dinner and concerts and things like this, you'll see. But I'm not doing it to curate an image that you can like, oh, look how you can live. I mean, I'm 49. I'll be 49 years old this week. I've done this for a very long time. My business was built by me. It's a good, successful oral surgery platform business. I've earned what I have. And so, there are a lot of younger people out there who are like, this is where I go. This is what I do. Look at how fancy I dress, but they don't have really anything, including a patient base or a really much life experience or anything like that. For me, I've done it. So this is what I do. I eat sushi. I'm very fortunate. I eat the best restaurants in the world. I go to great concerts. This is what I love to do. But the majority of what I think is important on Bloody Tooth Guy is oral surgery content. That's why you're there. I mean, I've done obviously demographic evaluation of like my entire audience. A lot of young dentists, which is great. A lot of dental students, dental residents, people interested in oral surgery and learning techniques. People ask me every single day, what instrument is that? How do I make that flap? What are you using for an anesthetic cocktail? Like all these clinical questions, and of course, business questions as well. But people are interested in oral surgery, and I think I've provided that for them.
So a big driver of what seems like a lot of these pages is to bring patients into the door. I mean, whether or not you want to get into the specifics of that, but what is it meant for your actual practice, your oral surgery practice? Do you get patients to the door because of the page, or is this more just a hobby?
I think it's more the latter. I do, of course, get patients who want Bloody Tooth Guy to take out their wisdom teeth or put in an implant or something like that, and that's great. It's very flattering. But again, I have a practice that I've built over. I mean, the practice itself, Riverside Oral Surgery, is 15 years old. So thankfully, I have a reputation that's a clinical reputation based on where I practice and with the referring doctors and the communities that I serve. So that for me is, I don't want to say it's enough. There's never enough, and I appreciate everything, but I don't use Bloody Tooth Guy to push patients to my office at all. In fact, it's probably from a business perspective a mistake. But initially, I was totally anonymous for the first 4 years. I didn't even let anybody know that Bloody Tooth Guy was Jason Auerbach. And I did that because I think in the early days of Instagram, I wasn't even sure, how patients would take that, or if referring doctors would look at it as a positive or negative, or if my competing surgeons would use it as a negative and try to kind of feed my referring doctors negative things about me and, my business and all of that. I really didn't know. Obviously the world changed. Everyone wants to be famous, Insta famous, social media famous, and all of that. So that has benefited me. And I'm happy to, post anybody who asks me to, or anything like that. But HIPAA is a real thing. In the United States, it's something that we have to be really, really focused on. I am inside my practice. I am on Bloody Tooth Guy. If you see me post, you'll never see any identification of a patient, and you'll never see anyone who would not ask me or expressly, give me permission to actually post them.
Have you run into any issues with that? Because I know there's a whole bunch of these, whatever you call them, plastic surgery influencers who've gotten into a little bit of trouble because of what they've been posting. Anything on your end, or?
No, thank God, no. I have. I mean, if you look at it, it's always respectful. I'm never, if you hear conversation between me and an assistant, or me and Nana, who's usually recording me, it's always, tasteful and appropriate and kind. There's never any, like making fun of patients or being in any way unprofessional. So I think most of that comes from trying to showboat. That's not my style at all. So I haven't had any issues with that at all, thankfully.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So what about your partnership with the New Jersey Devils? When you responded to my email, I saw in the signature, you're the official oral surgery oral surgeons for them.
We are. So we practice. I started my practice in 2007 in northern New Jersey, in a county called Bergen County. It's my practice, the primary one that I have been in since then. Is about 6 miles from the George Washington Bridge. So New York City is right here. I grew up on Long Island, which is a suburb of New York, and I was a Ranger fan, actually. So that was something that was, and continues to be, near and dear to my heart. But when I got to Jersey, fortunately, we developed a reputation and a referral network, and we were seeing a lot of the Devils players and upper management, and it became something that was really a big part of my practice. We were seeing the Devils, we were seeing the Giants. At the time, we were seeing the Nets, who have since moved to Brooklyn, of course. And it was something that we were doing on a regular basis. And I said to myself, I'm like, I love this. This is great. It's an honor, but I'd love to be able to talk about it. And so how do you talk about it? You have to go into an actual agreement with the organization, because it's a different kind of relationship. It's not that I'm the team dentist. It's a marketing agreement, of course, but it comes with a lot of significant benefits. So being the official oral surgeon of the New Jersey Devils enables me to be at games and network and meet people and provide tickets to basically every event at the Prudential Center for my referral network and for patients and for team members. So it really is a very, very, very special partnership that that I would never really want to give up. The Devils are really the only professional sports team with the moniker of New Jersey. Even though the Giants and the Jets play in New Jersey, they're both New York sports teams. And even though there are some soccer teams that play here as well, or football, as most people in the world would call it, they're the only team that is called a New Jersey professional sports team is the New Jersey Devils, and hockey's great. So I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from again, just from an ROI perspective, you said it's meant a lot from, the goodwill between your referral network. And a lot of people listening to this are dentists, dental students, residents. Is it worth I mean, at different scales, of course, you have so many practices and just a massive empire, but is it worth for a dentist with a couple of practices to enter an agreement like this, or is that, a little bit too premature?
I definitely did not do it when I had only a few different offices. It would have been, I don't want to say cost prohibitive, but it would have been, a significant undertaking. Being the official oral surgeons of the New Jersey Devils for us is just, it really supports the brand. It supports, what we're trying to put out there, that we provide the best level of oral surgery care in the state of New Jersey, I think anywhere in the world. And so the support of that organization, which is so well respected and means so much in the state of New Jersey, is huge. When you're thinking about building a brand, which is something that I was very, very acutely aware was important when I started and still am, it's really about, like, what do you want to be known for? And early on, it was and continues to be the optimal patient experience each and every time. I came up with that. I own the IP. I use it in all my marketing, and it's really not just words. It's something that I strive for. I mean, literally every single day, I try to figure out how to raise the bar on what that optimal patient experience is. And obviously, we don't always hit the mark. Sometimes we miss. Unfortunately, that's business. That's life. But if you shoot for that, then ultimately you'll get close, even if you miss. It's the same thing with the Devils. I mean, the fact that we're partnered with them gives us a lot of strength in what we're doing. People know, oh, these guys are good enough to treat the Devils. These guys are good enough to work with the Devils. The Devils are they vetted us, very, very well. And so if we're good enough for that, then most patients think we're good enough for them. So it's from a branding perspective, very important. Also, from a specialty dentistry standpoint, the hospitality piece is a huge, huge thing. Let's be real. So being able to go out and network and reward loyalty and reward our so like the young ladies and young guys who work for us, who maybe wouldn't necessarily be able to go see some of these events that are at the Prudential Center, which is where the Devils play. I mean, we routinely give Disney on Ice tickets to, young dental assistants with young children, and it's really, really appreciated. So that relationship is hugely important for us as an organization, internally and externally. And I would wager that, like, if a PE firm were to look at the ROI on the spend, you probably would be hard pressed to find like a good positive ROI, but it's the qualitative piece more than the quant that to me is always what separates really exceptional businesses from ones that are just like, multiples of EBITDA.
Right. How did you become so acutely aware of brand building? Because that's not something you see amongst a lot of dentists or surgeons or even healthcare workers. I feel like that's such a nuanced way of thinking about your practice. Where'd you develop that?
Growing up, I was always pretty entrepreneurial, and as such, I think people have these innate skill sets and certain acumen for certain things. For me, I maybe am a kind of a natural promoter of things. I understand things. I understand like the emotion that something is supposed to bring, or is going to ideally bring the audience. And so I don't know. I mean, I was fortunate to be exposed to some things very early that struck me as impressive or important. I mean, just as an example, and this is much later in life, we were at the Montage in Laguna in California. My wife and I and our daughter, who's now a freshman in college, who was a baby. She was like 2 or 3, and she was. This is not really answering your questions, but this is the kind of stuff that I really see. So she wanted, I don't know, call it strawberry jelly or something like that, and all they had there was grape jelly. And instead of the guy saying to me, I only have grape jelly, I'm sorry, or whatever. He didn't even say anything. He literally walked across the street to a convenience store, bought her strawberry jelly, brought it back to the table and gave it to her. And to me, that's stuck with me, because it was really all about, say yes and figure out on the backside how to make it happen, right? Always make the patient happy, always make, always basically give that patient experience, the customer experience. And so again, I know this is not so much the branding, but it is part of that. It's part of just kind of always giving your best and always putting out there what the patient wants, or what the customer wants, or what the consumer wants.
Well, no, it made a whole lot of sense, because any brand is nothing without the emotion it evokes, right? And just like that guy running across the street to get your daughter some jam, it's like, okay, well, that evokes an emotion. Now every time you think of that place, it's just a great experience. So I mean,
That's right.
it all ties into branding for sure. But in terms of like a monetary amount, do you allocate and it doesn't really sound like this just based on your previous answer, but do you allocate a specific percent or amount, or is it just, if you see something and it makes intuitive sense, you'll go with that?
It's the latter. And so early on in the years of my business, I never ever thought about the cost of anything. It was all like, as long as I had enough money to make my family comfortable and whatever it was, every other dollar went back into the business, whether it was technology or updating the office or marketing or whatever it was. I didn't look at it at all. I have zero formal business training. In fact, my most prized possession is my rejection letter from Harvard Business School. And so, I mean, when I was an oral surgery resident, I thought about maybe going to get my MBA, and took my GMAT, did very well, thankfully, but got rejected from Harvard. And I have it hanging on my wall right here. And so I'm not a guy who's looking, or never have been a guy who was looking at spreadsheets or anything like that. I understand norms. I understand what's too much, what's too little, obviously. But my business sense comes more from trying to kind of do the right thing as I see it. But, sometimes I've been wrong, but most of the time, thankfully, my intuition is right.
That's incredible. I can't believe you printed out that rejection
Oh,
letter.
it's not printed out. So perspective, this was in 1999. So they actually sent me a typed letter that read like, we wish you all the best in the world, but you're not Harvard material, which I didn't write that. Obviously they wrote something very, very kind, but yeah, I love it. I love it. And my daughter, so when my daughter did not get into a certain school, I showed her that. I was like, this is what it's all about. I believe fully, this is a total tangent, but I believe that the vast majority of my success has come off the heels of a perceived failure. So if I didn't get into something, or if I didn't get the position that I wanted, or if I didn't get the partnership that I thought I wanted at the practice that I was an associate, all of the things that happened subsequent to those negative experiences have yielded so much more positivity. I mean, I could speak for days on like, I was an associate somewhere right out of residency, and, I was promised the world, and that didn't come to fruition, which is why I started Riverside Oral Surgery, which is why I have everything I have in the world right now. So, I mean, like that whole thing is a whole other little discussion, but I've been very fortunate in life.